Clara, this is Maya, Emily, and Mariah, and we want to talk to you about the question of, are personality tests appropriate selection tools? So let's first stop and take a second and look at what is a selection tool. These personality tests are super beneficial because they're techniques to accurately and consistently measure personality. It's not a set answer. It's a test that looks at behavioral styles. So it's a spectrum. So let's use extroversion and introversion as an example. Most people aren't solely extroverts or solely introverts. They're on like a line. So these tests look at, well, yes, one given day you might be feeling like super frisky and extroverted and want to be around people, but it looks at a spectrum. So you have an ish of what kind of person you are. And these personality tests look at so many different parts of personality. There's some that look at tons of different answers. Some look at just introversion versus extroversion. There's a wide range. And most of them are super easy to take. They look at, it's a realm of questions. It ranges up to like 100 questions, but they're easy to answer. It's basic questions that anyone can answer. They're not meant to trick you or test you. It's supposed to help you. As a person, not looking at the organization, they're helpful in many ways. They can help in terms of like picking a college or what you want to do for your life, figuring out if you are good with ambiguity or if you're uptight, or these aren't bad things. It's just figuring out what is going to be right for you in the long run. It also helps in terms of the organization. We'll get more into that later on, but it's cost effective in terms of large companies and is really good for many people. It weeds out undesirable employees. And this, as an individual, you want because you want a job that you're gonna like, you're gonna succeed in. And based on your personality, this test will help you make sure that you're doing something in the long run that makes you happy. They're hard to fool, they're very easy to take. And as an employer, you want people who are willing to take this test to figure out if this is the right fit for them. So we'll get more into the conversation later.
Okay, done.
Hi, my name's Todd, and today Navia, Miranda, and Dewey and I are going to talk to you about why these personality exams, tests, whatever you want to call them, are not a good choice for determining who will be a good employee or not. So when you have a hiring process, you're looking for the most diverse group of people that you could find. And sometimes, as we learned in class, that being an introvert as a reporter might be a good choice to have, whereas some would say that it's not. These tests that they have, the Big Five indicator, or the Big Five test, they have a Myers-Briggs type indicator exam. How many people have taken one of these two in here? Quite a few of us, right? And so you should have a good idea, and I don't know if you feel this is proper. Does it hit the mark whenever you take it and go, oh yeah, that's me? But what we're going to show today is that there are certain jobs that tend to be for that would be good with this job or not. I'm also going to give you a little bit of information here. There was a study, a review done on juvenile delinquents, and they also took that Big Five personality test, and they said someone who is high in extroversion is more apt to engage in drug dealing, theft, strong arming. But extroversion is what you will find most CEOs are, mostly extroverts. So you have a criminal element, but yet you have CEOs. Sometimes you may want to put those two together also. However, that is not the case. They will bring up numerous points on why they're good, and we are going to explain to you why they are not. So, thank you.
All right. One second. Ready?
So our first argument is on the Big Five personality traits test. We do say it's an effective way to kind of test for someone's personality and kind of go further from there, depending if it's a job or school or an interest or anything like that. So it tests on 5 different traits. The first one is open openness to experience, which would be adventure, curious, creativity, stuff like that. The second one is consciousness, which if you have a high score in that, it indicates you plan more often than more of like a spontaneous behavior. So you're gonna plan like what's gonna happen rather than just randomly doing something. It also means you have more self-discipline, and it also rises amongst younger adults rather than older, just because once you get older, you tend to like be more disciplined. The third one is extroversion. If you score high in extroversion, you interact with more people. You're in a group setting, you're more visible. You're outspoken. And if you're not an extrovert, then you're an introvert, which is maybe lower social engagement. The fourth is agreeableness, and that is just getting along with others, being generous, helpful in that nature. And the fifth one is neuroticism, and that's with emotional instability, anxiety, emotional reaction towards things, and maybe more vulnerable to stress. So the pros to those 5 there that can like really benefit you is that they're the 5 basic dimensions of a personality. So they kind of hit like a wide range of the way someone is. This is beneficial in the job place because you may need specific traits for the position. So say the job they work more in teamworks, it can tell you whether you like to work with teams or you'd rather work by yourself. So if it's individual work, then you kind of know if it's the fit, or if you work better in a team and that's how the job is, you would know the difference. Maybe if it's a really stressful, high pace, they would look at neuroticism there, if you can handle stress well or if you don't, just kind of depending on the workplace there. Maybe the job is creative and you need to create something often. It can also test for that as well to see if you're a fit or not. The next is, it's still easy for a job selection. When a job looks at your different traits, they kind of know what you have and what position they need to put you in, just based on teams or not teams, stuff like that. And then another thing is that it can indicate behavior. So once you know someone's personality and they're put into a situation, it's going to give you how their behavior is, and it'll kind of tell you how they react when they're in the setting that it's for. And then just according to Kendra it's a website named Very Well, they did mention that they looked at 50 different cultures, and these 5 dimensions accurately describe personality. They do believe that it's a universal kind of traits that everyone has, and it also has biological origins. These five core personality traits suggest that these personality traits represent the most important qualities that shape our social landscape. So these 5 things that it hits on really hit the spot on how a person is, and they can kind of go from there.
So these random and unpredictable behaviors are actually considered consistent patterns in our personalities. So what these Big Five can test is our random, uncontrollable things that are actually part of our personality. So the personality assessment works best if the individual prefers to work alone or needs more help making decisions. That's what can be assessed from these tests and can help identify strengths and weaknesses in employees, which is also useful for other employees who are also working with these employees in particular, besides just the bosses and managers and deciding whether or not to hire them. It also helps improve their success in the workplace. Granted, these are not 100% predictors of a person's personality or tell whether they're going to succeed or fail, but they can help identify some strengths and weaknesses that can help them succeed or fail.
Okay.
So what you guys are talking about is a lot of internal hiring selection, like using the personality test to find where this person's going to be a best fit, rather than external when you are hiring for one specific position and you bring in a bunch of candidates and you have them all take this personality test, you're gonna pick the one who best fits that specific position. So I don't know that it's super relevant, but you were also talking about how basically the personality test can be an indicator for whether or how this person will perform in a job. But Frederick Morgeson, who's an expert in organizational psychology at Michigan State University, has done studies and has found that people can overcome their natural tendencies to meet job requirements. So it's really not a very good indicator. For example, our teacher on last Wednesday said that she's an introvert, but yet she gets up here every day and stands in front of 35 students, and you wouldn't know any different. So it's just really not an appropriate selection tool for that reason. She also mentioned last Wednesday that salesmen, usually you would think that you're looking for an extrovert, but the best tool that a salesman can have, according to research that I found as well, is listening rather than speaking and being extroverted.
So to go ahead and add on to that, to show how personality tests are actually ineffective and not even efficient as a proper tool for the hiring process, there was a research done by Frank L. Smith, who is an American psychology professor at the University of Iowa. And he did a research with multiple 100 Fortune companies and over multiple tests. And he has actually shown with his results that the correlation between personality tests and job performance actually has a weak correlation of up to 0.22. In comparison to a multi-measure test, which in turn has a stronger correlation of up to 0.71. And a multi-measure test actually hits more than just the personality. It also hits situational tests and also practices of which they actually make sure that their employees can actually handle it, and also who they're planning on hiring as well. And this was sourced out and also reviewed by the Harvard Business Review as well.
Awesome. Another thing that it is when applicants applied, they actually, according to Cornell University Center for Advanced Human Resources, they actually found a significant number of applicants who fake what they write on their personality tests. So about, depending on the confidence interval used, between 30 to 50% of applicants elevated their scores when applying for a job. Also, a study published by Journal of Personality said that the people who overestimated their agreeableness and conscientious, the most predictive of performance, perform worse on the job. So even if it says so, that they're very confident on a personality test, it may transfer over that they're actually not when they fake. That being said, the cost of a personality test definitely undermines the benefits. The cost is higher than the proficiency of it, according to BBC and the University of Pennsylvania. The Myers-Briggs lives on a revenue generator for CPP, the company that owns the rights to the test. And they make about an estimated $20 million a year by charging people from $15 to $40 to take the survey, and certifying test administrators for $1,700. So they, as much as we think it's the most popular and more ineffective, is actually the least valid for hiring, especially according to a measurement strategist at Proactive Consulting. The 4-quadrant test measures a person's state, which depends highly on the mood and the environment that they're in. So if they have a crappy day in the morning, they're probably going to do really bad on the test. That also being said,
Just one quick, you're talking about the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs there.
Yeah, sorry, no problem. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
No, the time is done, so we're good.
are you sure?
Yeah.
You had another point and I.
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Just 1 second. Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so the Myers-Briggs test is a test that has 4 different dimensions. It tests introversion versus extroversion, which is something Maya touched on. It's a really important tool when we're scoping out what kind of fields we'll be most comfortable in. If we are comfortable in a work environment, it's something that we would do where we're not pushed. If we're an introvert,
we're pushed to being a speaker or something like this, we're not going to perform as well as we would if we're doing something we're comfortable with. It also tests sensitivity.